Lucy Connolly is a free woman, but she should never have been sent to prison in the first place.
Lucy Connolly, you pleaded guilty to the offence of distributing material with the intention of stirring up racial hatred. The sentence on count 1, therefore, is one of 31 months' imprisonment.
She got 31 months after mistakenly pleading guilty to one count of inciting racial hatred. She said she did not know what she was pleading guilty to. People on the left say, oh, well, why did she plead guilty? Why did she plead guilty? Well, I'll tell you why I think. I think she got terrible legal advice. Like I said, she's on record saying that she didn't know that. When she pleaded guilty, she was admitting that she intended to incite violence. Now, her post read, mass deportation now, set fire to all the F hotels full of the Bs, for all I care. If that makes me racist, then so be it. Now, look, obviously, I don't think anyone's condoning what she said, but it was online for just 3.5 hours before she deleted it and apologised. Now, her son tragically died around 14 years ago, apparently, and news of the murders, the massacre in Southport, had caused a resurgence of the anxiety caused by her son's death. By the way, today, it's emerged that Southport massacre monster Axel Rudikabana has been given more privileges in prison in a bid to try to keep him happy behind bars. It's all a bit perverse, isn't it, this? Anyway, Lucy Connolly is out now, but let's have a little look, shall we, at some of the hardened criminals who spent less time in prison, or none at all, actually, for significantly worse offences.
What do you say to your victims, Hugh Edwards?
Ex-BBC Hugh Edwards swerved jail despite being a card-carrying paedophile. A convicted child rapist avoided jail owing to the prison overcrowding crisis in 2023. Reece Newman was jailed for 2 years after being convicted of the historic rape of a child under the age of 14. And then we've also got Daniel Ashbrook, who was found to have been mentally, physically and emotionally abusive to a woman over a 3-year period. He was given 21 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. Then we've got Mansour Khan, was a top NHS consultant, a father of 4, and was deemed, quote, a pillar of society, before he was, of course, found with more than 100 abhorrent and perverted images of children on his phone. Khan was spared jail at his sentencing in 2023. He's handed 8 months, suspended for 2 years. Charles Cannon was convicted of 7 charges of possessing terrorist information, was sentenced to 18 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. I could go on and on and on here. Lucy Connolly got terrible legal advice, in my opinion, anyway, and fell victim to a political judicial system that was, again, in my view, lent on by the Prime Minister.
And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week. That should send a very powerful message.
Here is a picture of Lucy Connolly. And there you go. And I think that she has now become the face of two-tier justice in Britain.
If you're a US resident, let's face it, things feel uncertain right now. America's national debt, over $36 trillion and climbing. Inflation, still eating away at your savings. And the dollar, down nearly 8% this year, with more countries walking away from it. Meanwhile, the markets, one day they're up, the next day, trillions gone in a blink. So it's no surprise people are asking, where can I actually put my money and sleep at night? That's why more investors are turning to gold and silver. Gold's up over 24% this year, smashing records and soaring past $3,300 an ounce. And some analysts say we could see $6,000 gold before the end of Trump's term. And silver, it's heating up fast, driven by demand in tech, solar and defence. Some analysts say it could double in value this year. If you've been thinking about moving part of your IRA or 401k into gold or silver, tax and penalty free, our friends at Priority Gold make it simple. They're endorsed by Rich Dad's Robert Kiyosaki, ranked #1 by Forbes and Financial Services Review, and trusted by thousands of everyday Americans. Right now, GB News viewers can get a free wealth preservation guide from Priority Gold. It shows you exactly how to add real gold and silver to your IRA or 401k tax and penalty free. Step-by-step plain English, no pressure, just smart information you can act on. Just scan the QR code, click the link in the description below, or if you're a US resident, text WEALTH to 24999. That's WEALTH to 24999 and claim your free guide today. The price of gold can go down as well as up. Past performance does not indicate future performance. Only invest what you can afford.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We are joined this evening by Reform Councillor for Essex, Jamie McIver, former Conservative advisor, Lauren McKevitt, and ex-Labour Party advisor, Matthew Larser. Jamie, I'll start with you on this. You know, there just seems to be an inconsistency here when you look at some of those out-and-out wrong-uns who've avoided prison, whereas Lucy Connolly was sentenced to 31 months.
Well, I agree. We've got a lawless country at the moment. We've seen that everywhere we go. But the worst thing about this is a mother with children. This is someone that's had trauma in her life. This is someone that clearly relies, not a legal expert, somebody that relies on legal advice. And I clearly can see here that poor Lucy, in a vulnerable position, was probably made to plead guilty, told something like the case is clean cut, and she has been fundamentally let down by that legal advice, and I think that's been the same with a lot of the people that are in prison. Obviously, what she said was inappropriate, but frankly, deleting it and apologising, I think, would be enough. And
it was worse than inappropriate, Jamie.
No, it was an awful thing that she said, and I'm never going to defend what she said, but if you look at some of the people in this country, vile, disgusting people that actually don't deserve to be in this country, some of these people, and we at the British state let them get away with it. Our justice system lets them get away with it, because if you walk into court and are found guilty of some of those vile crimes and then you walk out again and you get to go and see your family, a suspended sentence means you get to go home and sit on a sofa with your family. Lucy hasn't been able to do that, and that is wrong. And that is wrong because what she did was nowhere near as bad as some of the other crimes that take place in this country.
Is that not demonstrably true, in the sense that what she did was nowhere near as bad as some of the people who we've just rattled off there who walked free?
I think what she did, she didn't pull a gun on anybody. She didn't commit an act of violence. But the charge that she came up for, which is inciting racial violence, I think is fairly clear within the words that she put out into the public domain. However, she deleted it, she apologised, and the two-tier justice thing here, from my point of view, is an access to justice issue, because we had a free speech guy who did not plead at all last week, went to a jury trial, and a jury of his peers found him innocent.
Yeah.
Now, I strongly suspect that had Lucy not bowed to pressure about being told she wouldn't get bail and all of that, had she had legal advice that said, take it to trial, free speech at trial will probably do better than it will under a judge, I think that with a jury of her peers we'd be having a very different conversation. Now, if a jury of her peers had said, yes, you incited racial violence, you are guilty,
well, that's that.
Then that is completely different. But the pleading out within the justice system is problematic, but it is a feature of not having enough prisons. And my party cannot, within one breath, start talking about Lucy Connolly on one hand, and in the next, start campaigning in Essex against prisons being built.
Yeah, well, quite. Yeah, no, I agree. Your party's being the Conservatives.
Yes, absolutely.
For me, again, it comes down to that particular moment in time when the country was, massive. Well, it's a powder keg that had gone off a bit, actually, wasn't it, at that moment in time? And the Prime Minister was there saying, he's now expecting substantive sentences to send a clear message out. And you got Lucy Connolly there, who basically was just a normal woman who may or may not have had a little glass of wine and tweeted something inappropriate or whatever she's done, for which she's deleted and for which she's apologised. Getting that legal advice there, with the fear of God being put into her, without it being made clear to her that she was pleading guilty specifically to that charge of intent, basically, intending to whip up racial hatred. I find that absolutely wild. I just find it terrible legal advice.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The legal advice, from what we know of it, sounds to be pretty terrible, and I absolutely agree that she should have gone to a jury trial, and then we would have seen what happened. Clearly, particularly with these free speech issues, jury trials, I think, are important, particularly important for these sorts of cases, because it is, the importance of what somebody said needs to be judged by people, frankly, who are part of the audience.
There's a huge amount of pressure, though, and this
I think
drill down on. Keir Starmer saying that at the time, you know, I don't think that judge didn't have to, for example, sentence it to 31 months. You know,
well, there are sentencing guidelines in place for each of these, and part of the difficulty that we have here, and what a conversation we should be having, is why are sentencing guidelines for rape so appalling?
Yeah.
And why are sentencing guidelines for issues like a tweet not, you know, quite as stringent as this? Very clearly, we shouldn't have paedophiles out on licence as soon as their case is over. Very clearly, someone who has deleted and apologised and pled out should not be going away when we have a prison space crisis. But what we need to be talking about here is the sentencing guidelines that are in place for these charges. And the Justice Secretary, to give her credit, she's probably one of the best Conservative Justice Secretaries we've had in the last 14 years, has hauled the Sentencing Council over the coals and seems to be intent on changing a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have serious qualms, Jamie, about the actual state of the legal profession. So Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, former Labour councillor, suspended Labour councillor, found not guilty. Now,
by a jury.
By a jury. Now, whatever anyone thinks about that is a verdict that we all have to accept because it's gone to jury trial, right? However, with Lucy Connolly, she's on record saying that she basically did get bad legal advice. There was another bloke who's a former Royal Marine, he was a Welsh guy, got initial legal advice, plead guilty, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble here, then got the Free Speech Union involved, pleaded not guilty, and a jury of his peers found him not guilty in 17 minutes. That's all it took to acquit him. It just feels to me like if you're on the left, the legal advice might be like, oh, go on, go to a jury. If you're on the right, you've got a view about immigration, it's like, you better plead guilty because you're going down, mate.
Well, I've got the best example of this from Epping. So there we are, peacefully protesting to close a hotel. Far-left thugs get escorted in, and they're shouting for a serving member of Parliament to be burnt alive. I reported that to 3 police officers on the night, 2 since. I actually contacted the Chief Constable about it, and nothing has happened. I haven't even been asked if they can have the photo of the person that did it.
Yeah.
And then you look at how some of the so-called far-right mums were behaving. Get out the road or you're going to be arrested. We're putting a section so-and-so whatever in on the pavement if you stand on it. You know, this is the problem in this country. If you're on the left, you get away with it, and if you're on the right, you don't.
The other kick in the knackers, Matthew, is that today it's emerged that Axel Rudiker-Barn has been given a TV back in prison and various different other prison privileges in a bid to try to keep him happy. You know, the timing of that, given that Lucy Connolly, in the wake of what happened in Southport, has served a lengthy time behind bars, and he's being treated like he's in a Hilton.
Well, I mean, I think I'm not sure that just having a TV is. I mean, look, he's obviously an absolutely reprehensible individual. You know, I'm quite surprised he isn't in a padded cell rather than in a cell with a TV. I don't think it's a case of two-tier justice. And what I want to say is Patrick, if you believe that the legal advice was bad, that means we need to put more money into legal aid, because frankly, what you get in these cases is a very tired, very harassed solicitor.
Very left-wing, maybe.
Who is probably not a free speech specialist.
He probably isn't a free speech specialist. And I suspect, I don't know, but some of those who may have more experience, you know, the guy who was the suspended Labour councillor probably knew the system a bit better because he was a councillor and he said no. You know, he may have overridden his legal advice. I don't think every lawyer is trying to get their clients jailed. What I think they're trying to do is just get through those huge number of cases they've got because the legal aid system is collapsing.
Axel Rudiker should never, ever, ever be allowed to watch TV ever again. Those poor families will never be able to watch TV with those little girls ever again. Those little girls will never be able to watch TV again. That man should never be able to watch TV. And frankly, I'd rather write a cheque to Donald Trump and put him in the worst prison in America where he'd actually get some justice treatment for those poor families than have the British state have to pay a penny more towards... TV is a luxury. You know, there's families in this country that can't afford to put the telly on. They can't afford to have a TV licence. You know, what a state we're in.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I imagine, I don't know this, I imagine that Lucy Connolly was probably at some point when she's, you know, gathered herself and settled outside a bit, going to do a media round, I would have thought. And
by the way, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact she's a woman.
Oh, go on.
And there's more space in the female prison system.
Interesting. OK.
So there are fewer female prisoners, we know that. We have been actively, as a Conservative government previously, a Labour government now, mostly trying to get women out of the prison system because for the most part, they are not in for violent crime, they are in for non-payment of bills, they are in for non-payment of television licences. So there is a move towards getting them out of prison. There is more space in the prison footprint for women than there is for men. I don't think a man would have gone to prison for it.